Tell us what's in the book and how it's doing.
Yeah. Well, the book is really my experiences as I lived them in research and development of the Army under General Trudeau, Arthur Trudeau, and he drew me back in and put me in charge of that and established a Foreign Technology Division for me. And these were the artifacts on a crashed flying saucer, which we used the word applied engineering. Was Dr. Teller was still alive, knows he helped him. And we fed these things. He gave me the job of finding industry or scientists that were close to these items and feed us to them in normal R&D projects.
And you're saying these items came from somewhere else?
They came from a flying saucer.
How do you know that?
Because they were marked in the files as coming from New Mexico.
Roswell?
Yeah, it's Roswell. Well, I think some came, there might be another crash, but these came from New Mexico and Roswell especially. And General Trudeau gave me the job of working out a program, put these things out, feed them to industry, but there was provisions feeding it. They could have the patents, but they had to feed them out back to us as a competitive edge of the Army and to the American people and the world if necessary. Like the Japanese interviewed me, and I told them we put the integrated circuit out, and we also gave it to you. And I told the Japanese this right at the interview at Roswell.
Give me a little laundry list of the things that, the technologies that are at least partially responsible from the Roswell.
Well, there's the number one was the integrated circuit. Number two in importance was laser, because I had some laser instruments also. Then fiber optics came out of this. The imaging devices or night viewing devices came from this. Some of the work we did on electromagnetism and the ICBMs and came from this.
Imagine the scientists and technicians and the companies that worked on this stuff are not real happy with your version of history.
No, I haven't heard anything. In fact, I've heard from scientists, at least a dozen of them since then, and they're supporting everything in the book. They say it's true. In fact, I just got a letter before I left from McDonald's nephew, or son, and he told me that a lot of people come from IBM, from the Hughes, and from the White Pattern Air Force, and said that I filled some of the holes in which they've been wondering about for many years. And I just got this the day I left home, 2 days yesterday.
So is there any question, I mean, that elements of our military, our government, have known for a long time that UFOs are real, they're from somewhere else?
Oh, sure they do. I know certain in 1947, well, in 1947, no, I'll back up. I saw the body then. I didn't see UFOs. The UFOs came into the picture later years, 10 years later, for me. And also I worked out the omissions weren't in the UFOs. In fact, George, I've even told you, I think, that I was not interested in seeing UFOs. I was all interested in what was in those UFOs. You know, I told them I'm not interested in seeing something fly in the air, but I like to know what's inside that thing.
Did you physically handle the artifacts from
Oh yeah, I had them. They were in my possession.
What things did you have? What did you have?
I had an integrated circuit, like the size of a quarter. I had a bunch of wires. Colors were coming out of it. I don't say wires. I didn't know what they were. I didn't know if they were wires or any, they actually, well, I didn't know what they were. They just were emitting light. I had a piece of metal. Atoms were lined in it. So tough, paper thin, you couldn't break it, bend it, or anything. I had super tenacity fibers. That was, atoms were lined in it. You couldn't burn it, you couldn't cut it. And later on, the nearest thing in this world that we found to that was a spider web. There's a spider spins an atomic aligned web.
You know, people say military can't keep a secret. There's no way a secret like this could be kept.
We kept a secret one way. We had to keep the secret for two reasons. One was a climate opinion within our own government. The people higher up in the government didn't like the military or the Army. And if you remember, in those days, NASA took space. We did Project Horizon in '59. Part of it's in the book. First 50, that's 310 pages long. We were going to put a military colony on the moon. They took that away from us. They took atomics from us with atomic engine. But we still kept developing atomics, and we did the ion engine and some other things that maybe the world could use today, like the portable atomic installation that went to McMurdo Air Force Base. Made 28 million gallons of water a day, 10 million in 4 years. Then when they came back, they destroyed it on us. We did the first heart pump. We did some atomic ion that took nitrogen in the air and made a fuel you could run an automobile from it. And they used PU-238, what we used. And most of the probes that went to Mars and Saturn and so forth, and Jupiter, where our little engine was in those. The Soviets stole it, some of their spies. In fact, I have satellites up in space going right today, but they're leaking because they didn't do a good job with them.
Back to the idea of the cover-up. I know you've said before that it wasn't really an active cover-up.
No, because I was telling in later interviews, if you let the government alone, it'll cover itself up. Really, the way we handled it, one was a climate of opinion, as I said. The other was within our own government we had enemies who would have been glad to destroy all this on us and to have us as kooks. So what we did, I got the job of going and developing a program, which is discussed in the book how it was done. And through this program, we started feeding it out through industry. But this was not put on paper. They went out as normal research and development proposals, not to name something.
Yeah, you didn't put out a report that said, here's some alien stuff, figure it out.
We put our regular research and development proposal that came from somebody's brain. And also this was known among a select few, mostly combat officers, head to head. We kept this among ourselves, because otherwise we were certain that they would have destroyed our organization, and we had a good organization. General Trudeau pulled it together just a couple years before. They would have destroyed our organization and labeled us as kooks and taken our budget away. So it had to be. We didn't cover because we gave it to industry with the provisions, and I'll repeat this. The provisions were to come back to us with what you prove, the competitive edge of the Army, give it to the people and to the world if necessary, and take the patents. We encourage you to take the patents. And I have this in paper written by generals in 1963.
What do you think it is now? I mean, your organization, that organization's gone. All the people who are involved are gone.
Yes, it's gone.
Do you suppose there are still people who are active in this?
George, all I can tell you, yes, I had some things happen just a few weeks ago, and I won't name where it happened. I had two colonels come up to me in uniform and say it's true, all this happened. I had a lieutenant colonel came up to me and says, I worked at Hangar 51. It's true. What you say in the book is true. I had a captain come up to me in uniform. It was on the military base. Said he'd been test pilot at B2, and what I said in there was true. And I have other scientists call me. First one endorsed me was our friend down in Austin. He was very proud. He called me up. He said, I endorsed you. So I told him, well, thanks. And I've had other scientists call me lately. And just a few days ago, 2 days ago, I got this letter from McDonald's. And he's going to get his father to talk to me, because he was a big NASA consultant. And NASA also now has Project Horizon, the whole 310 pages. And they were amazed. And Hal put it out, gave it to them. And they were amazed at such a document. And also, I went to Senator Glenn about 1.5 years ago, and he was interested in the cart we made that ran with water. The fluid hydrodynamic came from the saucer. And also, he wanted Project Horizon, which I gave him a copy. And Senator Glenn, by the way, he's in the news lately. I asked him, I told him about flying saucers, and he said, well, Colonel, I'm an agnostic. And I told him, yes, but Senator, you didn't say you didn't believe. And he laughed. He sort of smiled when he said, but that's what he told me actually in his office.
Yeah, you said a couple of other military people have come forward and said, yeah,
in the last few days.
True. Any people from that other era that have come forward to support you and said, yeah, Phil, I was there when you were there?
Yes, a couple people.
Publicly?
Yes, not publicly, because I say I don't have the right to put their names out in public unless they decide to do it themselves.
Got any grief? Has anyone from military or government told you, hey, you're doing the wrong thing?
No, nobody. I haven't had I had a few critics, but one of the critics that you know about, he shook hands with me out there, and then they said he was afraid to death. I don't know what for, but anyway, he came up and shook hands with me. And as critics, I figured this is the truth.
What about the press reviews of the book?
They've been excellent. Most of the reviews have been excellent. I just got one the other day from Michael Lindham, and it was an excellent job. In fact, Hal sent it to me and said, amazing, extraordinary article. I have that outside in my case. But they all so far, it's all been receptive, and but the biggest thing, they're confirming it. And the biggest thing that I was impressed with when I was in Roswell and in Albuquerque and places, where the people coming up to me with their children want me to talk to their young children. At Albuquerque, a Hispanic woman with a 9-year-old boy sat for 3 hours. I was wondering why she was sitting there. She waited till the line was gone to sign the books. And I got into 7 o'clock and I got out at 11:30. She waited over 3 hours so I could talk to her little boy. But the people who come up to me with their children, I had my 3 grandchildren out there. And one newspaperman said his grandchildren are here watching him. It has to be true.
Were you and your group ever able to determine where these things are from, why they're here?
No, we were never able to determine. Although one of the remisses of things that I missed out on, and I say this, and I think the greatest gift God ever gave, we created man in his image. Yet we had the greatest artifact that they gave us was those bodies, and we didn't do enough on those. That partially, I can take the blame. I had the money, I had the organization, I had the people to do it, and we didn't go far enough.
Autopsies were done on bodies, though,
but
right?
not enough. We didn't do enough. How they functioned, how their brain functioned. And we came to a conclusion even in those days that these were, the reason most flying saucers have failed is because our conclusion was that this being is part of the guidance system. He's part of that saucer. And I had a little story I told, which even Lindemann picked up. One day I was walking with a general in the hall, General Trudeau, and I made the statement, my son must be a little crazy. He said, Indians talk to him. And General stopped and said, don't say that again, Phil, because people, there are certain relationships with motors and solid items that humans have, which we don't understand. Now this goes back to what our discussions on the extraterrestrial. He was part of the guidance system, or it, whatever it is, because it has no sex organ or thing. It was part of the guidance system. That's why we failed in propulsion and guidance system of these flying saucers.
But we didn't figure it out.
We never figured it out. We didn't do enough on that body. We didn't even do 10% of what we should have done.
You saw the reports.
I had the reports. See, the Walter Reed, the laboratory Walter Reed, was our laboratory. We financed it. That was ours. And that's who did the tar that I had in my files. But it didn't go near far enough. The skin, marvelous instrument. Look at our skin. This is one of the wonders of creation, our skin.
Where do you suppose that stuff is now, those reports? Those kind of reports?
I have no idea, George. When I left the Army, I was one of the men who was supposed to see that nothing was stolen from the Army. They were in my file, what happened to them. I've called some friends recently, given some ideas where they might be to try to run them down. But I don't know. You know how the military operates? The burn bag and the microfilm. In those days, we microfilmed a lot of stuff. Well, we had. I have no idea what happened. Remember, I've been gone almost 40 years now.
What about the few people who have criticized you? They're saying, well, why are you coming out now? You're violating your security oath. What are you telling us?
Well, I've been asked that question many times.
I know.
Number one is I had an oath with the general, so we wouldn't discuss this. The general said, when I die, Phil, you're released from your oath. He died 3 years ago, and I started to write it. Number two is I couldn't talk about people who were with us that I had no right to talk about. In intelligence, like a newspaper man, your source is not named unless he gives you permission to name him. I had no right to do that. And so my own family criticized. My son says, 35 years you didn't talk. You didn't even tell us. So that's right. Why should I tell anybody? I had an oath, was an honorable man, a great man. And I wasn't about to betray that oath. And not only that, I had never any intention of writing a book or putting it on paper. That never entered my mind when I was in the military. I never thought I'd write a book or even do a movie on it. That never entered my head.
Anything else you want people to understand about this?
Well, it's the truth as I lived it. And when I say with the young people I met out there, and the young people have been talking to me, and even my nephew who first put the idea in my head, and we're not going to panic, he called me lately, and he said all the people in his factory now are all for it. In fact, he just sent me 7 books to want me to endorse that they bought. And all I got to say, it's the truth, and I think it's a better world for this, but also there's dangers in this. I even told the general one day, what are we unleashing on the world in this greatest threat? He said, well, I hope that people that come later will recognize the danger. He said, but not my lifetime, Phil, and this isn't a book. Well, he died 3 years ago. I'm 82 years old. I happen to be still around. And that's what I think great developments. Well, one thing, give you an example of what happened. I had a file on von Neumann's file on artificial intelligence. It was called Project Rainbow, and I did nothing with it. And I should have done something with it, but I put it in the file and left it there. But the supercomputer was not developed yet. Look what's happened. Look at the imaging devices in hospitals. Those imaging devices saved my life just a few months ago when I was operated on for my stomach and a hernia. We started a heart pump. Look what developed from that. So I hope that these developments continue, and that we're not, say, harmed by politics or petty jealousies, that they continue with scientists the way they should continue. We did them. We happened to do it. I think we succeeded in a way. But you see how why we had to keep it quiet, because of the forces, interaction, the forces. We couldn't give it to CIA and say this in the book, because we thought we had to keep this from the Soviet. When Roswell happened, Stalin gave instructions to get this in from whatever happened there, get the information. We were confronted with the KGB and the Soviet Union, at the time an enemy, and we were confronted like, as I say, people criticize me, they say, well, you're kooky. I told them, well, I'm in good company. General Marshall, General Trudeau, General MacArthur, von Braun, Olbert, Wilbur Smith from the... I told them, I'm in good company. That's the company I'd rather be in, with those kooks.
Those are all people that knew about this.
They know about all this. I'd rather be in that company than the ones criticizing me.